In the stillness of this moment, where the breath rises and falls, like the gentle ebb of the tide, we find the true wealth that has always been within us. A richness not measured by coins or possessions, but by the depth of our presence. To be rich in presence is to awaken to the symphony of life, unfolding in the now. To feel the warmth of the sun on our skin, to hear the rustle of leaves in the wind, to taste the sweetness of a smile shared. It is in this awareness that we discover the currency of now, a treasure that cannot be hoarded or lost, only experienced. As we let go of the incessant striving for more, we begin to see that contentment arises not from accumulation, but from appreciation. Each moment becomes a gem, each breath a gift, each heartbeat a reminder of the miracle of existence. In embracing the present, we release the burdens of the past and the anxieties of the future, finding peace in the simplicity of being. This is the essence of mindfulness, the practice of returning again and again to the here and now, where life truly happens. In this space, we connect deeply with ourselves and others, cultivating compassion, joy, and equanimity. The richness of presence is not a destination but a way of living, a continuous unfolding of awareness that brings clarity and purpose. As we immerse ourselves in the now, we align with the natural rhythm of life, flowing effortlessly with its currents. We become attuned to the subtle beauty that surrounds us, finding inspiration in the ordinary and recognizing the sacred in the mundane. This profound connection to the present moment transforms our experience, allowing us to live with intention and authenticity. In this state of presence, we are no longer defined by our past or limited by our fears. We are free to be fully alive, to embrace the richness of life in all its forms. Let us cherish this gift of now, nurturing it with our attention and care, for it is in the present that we find the true essence of our being. May we walk this path with open hearts and minds, embracing each moment as an opportunity to grow, to love, and to live fully. In doing so, we become vessels of presence, radiating peace and joy to all we encounter, and enriching the world with the currency of now. And so, as we continue to dwell in the awareness of now, we begin to notice how the layers of noise, inner chatter, social conditioning, the grasping for meaning, begin to peel away, revealing the pure silence beneath, a silence not empty but full, overflowing with the richness of simply being. In that still core, time loses its grip, and what remains is eternal, untouched by worry or want. We no longer chase the fleeting illusion of success that lies just beyond the horizon. Instead, we find it here, in the scent of morning air, the softness of light touching a wall, the presence of someone near without the need for words. We come to understand that fulfillment is not in the next thing, but in this thing, this breath, this sensation, this moment that asks nothing of us but to be present. The currency of now is not spent, but shared. When we meet someone with our full attention, when we listen without waiting to respond, when we see another not as a role or object, but as a living presence, we enrich the world in a way no money ever could. Our presence becomes a balm to a world weary of distraction, a quiet offering in an age of noise. And as we cultivate this state, not through force, but through gentle returning, we realize it was always here. Presence is not something we create. It is something we allow. It flows through us when we stop obstructing it with plans, regrets, or identities. It doesn't require us to retreat to mountains or monasteries. It invites us to awaken right here, where life is actually happening. The mundane becomes mystical when we attend to it deeply. Washing dishes, walking the dog, making tea, Each becomes a gateway when done with care, with openness, with full attention. The richest people are not those with the most, but those who need the least to feel whole. And when we live from presence, we discover how little we truly need. Peace, joy, gratitude. They are not things to earn, but to notice. They arise naturally when the mind is still and the heart is open. This is not about avoiding responsibility or ignoring the world's pain. It is about engaging with both more fully, more compassionately, more wisely. Presence is the root of right action, of meaningful service, of genuine creativity. In this way, presence is not passive, but deeply alive. It animates the body, clears the mind, and awakens the soul. And as we move through the world in this state, we begin to leave a trail of presence behind us, a quiet impact that touches others not with noise, but with peace. We become anchors in the storm, mirrors of stillness, reminders of what matters, and even when we falter, when we forget and drift back into old patterns, the now is always waiting, patient and unchanged, ready to receive us again. So we return gently, breath by breath, moment by moment, choosing again and again to be here, to be real, to be rich, not in possessions, but in presence. And in this richness, we discover a life that doesn't need to be improved, only met with reverence. This is the currency of now, silent, invisible, and infinitely valuable. And as we go deeper into the well of presence, something profound begins to shift, not in the world around us, but in the quality of our attention, which subtly but powerfully transforms our reality. The gaze becomes softer, yet sharper. We begin to see again, not through the fog of memory or projection, but with the fresh eyes of awareness. A tree is no longer just a tree. It's a living sculpture of life's silent intelligence. A stranger is no longer a background figure. They are a whole universe walking in human form. The present moment unveils itself as layered and alive, filled with nuances we previously overlooked in our rush toward imagined futures. We realize how rarely we've truly listened, how often we've heard words, but missed the heart behind them. Now, in presence, we hear the silence between sentences, the weight of a sigh, the sacredness in a pause. In this currency of now, everything becomes sacred. Even suffering, when met fully, reveals its hidden gifts: empathy, depth, humility. We stop resisting pain and start holding it like we would a crying child, not needing to fix it, just to be with it. And strangely, this simple presence heals. It doesn't promise immunity from life's storms, but it gives us the inner spaciousness to weather them with grace. Richness becomes redefined, no longer measured in digits or possessions, but in our capacity to feel, to connect, to be here. The present becomes enough. It doesn't ask us to do more, be more, or have more. It only invites us to be fully and without reservation. And in that being, we begin to belong, to ourselves, to life, to each moment as it is. We find that presence is inherently intelligent. It knows how to respond, not react. It allows us to speak truth without aggression, to act with clarity instead of compulsion. Our movements become more fluid, our choices more aligned, our interactions more sincere. And in the still depth of presence, we reconnect with something timeless, something untouched by opinion, culture, or circumstance. Call it spirit, awareness, the Tao, or simply this. It is the essence beneath every experience, the backdrop that gives rise to every thought, feeling, and perception. When we live from presence, we stop seeking experiences and begin resting in the one experience that contains them all, the now. And in doing so, we reclaim our lives from the tyranny of time. Time, Once a taskmaster driving us toward imagined futures now becomes a gentle river in which we float, never lost, never behind. Goals still exist, but they no longer own us. We take action, yes, but not out of lack, out of wholeness. We stop using the moment to get somewhere and begin allowing it to be the destination. The irony is that in doing so, we become more effective, more creative, more intuitive, because our energy is no longer splintered across 1,000 distractions. The mind clears, the body relaxes, the heart opens. We become vessels of now, and life flows through us unobstructed. The more we return to this, the more we realize presence is not a state we must force. It is our natural state, always available beneath the noise. And with each return, we deepen our trust, not in outcomes, but in life itself. Presence teaches us that we are not separate from the world we long to understand. We are woven into its very fabric. And so, the desire to possess gives way to the joy of participation. We stop trying to hold on and begin to dance. This is not an escape from life, but a total embrace of it. We feel more, not less. We become more sensitive, more compassionate, more alive. And in that aliveness, wealth arises, not from external conditions, but from an inner radiance that cannot be dimmed. This is the richness of now, and it asks for nothing but your attention. The more you give, the more you receive, not in things, but in being. And in being you find what you were always seeking: peace, connection, joy without cause. This is the quiet revolution of presence. It changes everything, not by changing the world, but by changing how we meet the world, one breath at a time. And as the rhythm of presence deepens, we begin to feel time as not a straight line, but a gentle unfolding, each moment not pushing the next, but opening like a petal, silently revealing its truth. We learn to wait without tension, to act without urgency, to trust that what is needed will arise from the stillness rather than the striving. The ego, which thrives on plans and proving, starts to soften under the quiet power of now. We no longer define ourselves by our past or worry ourselves into the future. We live in the truth of what is. And from that truth, love flows, not the grasping kind that clings for security, but the vast, impersonal love that sees everything as itself. This love does not pick and choose, it radiates. It is not something we generate, but something we tune into when we are present. It is the presence itself, recognizing itself in all forms. And so we begin to see with the eyes of presence, listen with the ears of presence, and move through the world not as separate beings, but as expressions of the same silent intelligence. Our steps become more deliberate, our words more intentional, our gaze more kind. Presence teaches us that every moment is holy, not because of what happens in it, but because of the attention we bring to it. A cracked mug, a tired face, a patch of sunlight, each becomes a portal when met without judgment. In this presence, even our pain becomes sacred. We stop labeling experiences as good or bad and begin seeing them simply as life, showing up in different forms. This radical acceptance does not mean passivity. It means meeting reality with open eyes and an open heart. In doing so, we stop wasting an energy resisting what is and begin participating in life more fully. The richness of presence is not loud or dramatic. It is subtle, like a breeze or a heartbeat. And yet, it changes everything. When we are present, we are free, not because our circumstances are perfect, but because we are no longer bound by the need for them to be. This is the quiet liberation that presence offers, the end of the inner war, the return to enough. We realize we were never lacking, only distracted. And in this realization, we relax, not into apathy, but into clarity. We act not to complete ourselves, but to express what is already whole. This is the true power of now, not as a cliché, but as a lived experience that brings us back to what is real, what is alive, and what is already here. And as we continue to rest in this unfolding now, we begin to understand the profound difference between reacting and responding. Where reacting is mechanical, born of habit and fear, responding is creative, born of awareness and care. Presence allows us to pause in the space between stimulus and action, to feel the fullness of what's arising before choosing how to move. In this space lies our freedom, our maturity, our humanity. The more we return to this sacred pause, the more refined our inner life becomes. We are no longer tugged around by every emotion or thought, no longer hijacked by urgency or approval. We become the still point at the center of movement, the silent witness that animates all doing, but is never lost in the doing. And from this stillness, life becomes art. Even the smallest gestures, a hand on a shoulder, a word spoken with presence, a breath shared in silence, take on meaning, weight, power, because they come from depth, from attention, from the unshakable ground of now. This is where true connection arises, not in constant talking or explaining, but in shared presence. To sit with someone in silence, truly open and aware, is to know them more deeply than 1,000 conversations could reveal. In presence, masks fall away. We see beyond personality, beyond history, into the essence that was always there, soft, simple, and beautifully human. And as we live more from this space, something miraculous begins to occur. Life starts to cooperate, not in the sense that we always get what we want, but in the sense that what unfolds feels aligned, guided, meaningful. Synchronicities increase. Inner peace becomes less dependent on outer success. We stop chasing and start receiving. And what we receive is not always comfortable, but it is always true. Presence does not guarantee pleasure. It guarantees truth. And truth, though sometimes hard, is ultimately what sets us free. Free from illusion, free from performance, free from the relentless pressure to be someone, to get somewhere, to achieve something in order to matter. In the clarity of now, we see we already matter, not because of what we do, but because of what we are. This open, aware, alive presence, experiencing itself moment by moment. And from this, a deep reverence for life naturally arises, not just for the beautiful moments, but for all of it. We bow to joy and sorrow alike, knowing each has its place in the great unfolding. We stop editing our experience, stop clinging to highs and resisting lows. We begin to live in radical wholeness, where nothing needs to be different for us to feel complete. This is not spiritual bypassing, but spiritual embodiment. It is not floating above the world, but sinking fully into it, with eyes open, heart open, and mind quiet. And in this quiet, life begins to sing, not as a performance, but as a whisper that was always there, waiting to be heard. And in this whisper, we discover the real wealth we had overlooked for so long. Not in possessions, not in titles, not in future achievements, but in the immediate aliveness of this very breath, this sound, this texture of light dancing on the wall. We begin to understand that presence is not a tool to improve our life. It is life in its raw, unscripted, unfiltered truth. Every attempt to use the now for a future gain becomes transparent, and we start to sense the futility in endlessly deferring peace to some distant finish line. Instead, peace becomes the path itself, a way of walking, a way of seeing, a way of being. And as this becomes more than an idea, more than a philosophy, but rather a lived and felt reality, we start to move through the world with less fear and more grace. We forgive more easily, speak more slowly, and love more fiercely, not because we are trying to be good, but because the noise of ego has quieted enough for our natural kindness to emerge. And we begin to see that our very presence is a gift, not just to ourselves, but to others. In a world that moves fast, presence is medicine. In a culture addicted to distraction, attention is sacred. When we meet another human being fully, with nothing to fix and nothing to prove, something timeless enters the space between us. That space is healing, not because we say the right words, but because we are truly there. In that presence, others feel seen, heard, felt, not as roles or functions or stories, but as the sacred presence they also are. And so, the wealth of now does not accumulate like coins in a jar. It radiates, it connects, it transforms. It moves outward like ripples, softening the hardness in others, inviting them to return to their own center. A single moment of pure presence can shift an entire conversation, an entire day, sometimes even a life. And this is how we begin to serve, not through striving or sacrifice, but through showing up fully, here, now, unguarded and awake. We don't need to change the world. We need to be with it as it is, with eyes and heart wide open. And from that place of deep seeing, wise action arises, not as a duty, but as a joy. We may still build, create, lead, teach, but now it is no longer about adding to our identity. It is simply an extension of the stillness within. And so, work becomes worship, relationships become reflections, and every ordinary task becomes extraordinary when done in presence. Even washing a dish, folding a shirt, or walking to the door becomes a doorway into sacredness. This is the secret of presence. It needs nothing, yet it gives everything. It cannot be owned, yet it makes us feel rich beyond measure. It is invisible, yet it makes life visible in its full, undistorted beauty. And as we anchor more deeply into this truth, life itself becomes less of a problem to solve and more of a mystery to live. We no longer need to explain everything, control everything, or get everything right. We begin to trust, deeply, silently, that this moment knows what it's doing, and our task is simply to be here for it, fully, with nothing held back. And as we continue to dwell in this sacred trust, a soft power awakens within us, not the loud, forceful power of domination or ambition, but the quiet, rooted power of alignment. It is the power of a tree that doesn't chase the sun, but receives it, of a river that does not force its flow, but shapes the land through surrender. In this way, we begin to live from within, no longer outsourcing our sense of value to the world's unstable metrics. We don't need constant affirmation, because presence affirms us simply by being. There is a sufficiency here, a fullness that is not based on having more, but on needing less. And in that needing less, paradoxically, we often receive more, not because we are grabbing at life, but because we are open to it. We meet life with open hands instead of clenched fists, and in that openness, we become vessels rather than containers. Things come and go, people come and go, moments arise and pass, but we remain, the awareness in which it all happens. And this awareness is our true identity, deeper than any name, role, or narrative. When we live from this awareness, the old game of comparison loses its grip. We are no longer measuring ourselves against others or against our imagined future selves. We are here, just here. And here, everything is enough. There is no higher spiritual state than now. No better version of this moment, waiting around the corner. This is it. And when that truth lands, not in the mind but in the heart, we begin to relax more deeply into being. Our breath slows, our nervous system unwinds, our eyes soften, and even our thoughts grow more spacious. And in this inner spaciousness, we begin to see that we were never broken, never behind, never missing anything. We simply forgot to be here, forgot that presence was always available, always whispering, always waiting for us to stop and notice. And when we remember, even for a moment, we are returned to the home we never left, the sanctuary of the now, where life is not a performance, but a presence, where joy is not pursued, but allowed, where silence is not empty, but full of intelligence, where love is not something we earn, but something we are. And from this place, life becomes simpler, not easier, but clearer. We make decisions not from fear, but from alignment. We speak not to fill space, but to serve truth. We act not for image, but from integrity. And in doing so, we begin to embody the rarest form of wealth in today's world: presence. A wealth that doesn't diminish with use, but deepens. A wealth that cannot be stolen, marketed, or replicated. A wealth that grows each time we return to the simplicity of what is. This is the currency of now. Not flashy, not fast, but infinitely valuable. And as we continue to live in this currency, we become richer in ways the world may never understand, but the soul instantly recognizes: rich in silence, rich in stillness, rich in gratitude, rich in being awake to this one fleeting, miraculous moment. If this message brought you calm, this space is always here for you. Subscribe, return, and walk this quiet path with us, one breath at a time. Until next time, remember the importance of being present and not missing the richness of the now.